Awesome. Hello, everyone. You're welcome. Welcome once again to another exciting edition of PM Dojo's community event. I'm super excited about today's event because there is so much to learn. I hope you are too. So, quickly, I'll be doing a brief introduction and going through our agenda for today's event. I'm Bernice, the community lead at PM Dojo. I want to hear from you too. So, what's your name? Where are you joining us live from? Do that by writing down through the chat section. Tell us your name, where you're joining from, and what are your expectations from today's event. Let's do that right now. While you are doing that, please take a screenshot and share through your various social media platforms so you get people who are interested into diving into products to come join us today. And while doing that too, please do not fail to follow us and keep up on the social media platforms on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on Instagram. So let's right into it. I'll be checking through the text section to look through right about now. So while we are at that, I'll be reading through the agenda shortly. We'll be having a fireside chat with Marty in the next 45 minutes. And therein, our founder, Bosky, will be giving us like a Q&A session where you get to ask her about questions into transitioning into products. And after that, we'll be drawing down the curtains and quickly giving us the closing remarks. So yeah, I hope you all are excited. I'm going to be looking through the chat section now. Awesome. I can see so many people viewing from all across. Oh, perfect. Awesome. Great, great, great. I can see Joshi. If I were able to pronounce your name, please, I do stand corrected. He's viewing from Chicago. Awesome. I can see Chelsea from New Zealand. Awesome. Beautiful. That's great. Okay. From Spain. Awesome. Wow, 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 wow. I'm super excited. I hope you too are. Please, if you know someone who'll be interested, who is looking forward to transitioning into products, do not fail to reach out to them. Yes, perfect. So while you are that, I'll be telling you briefly about PM Dojo, about us, what we do stand for. If you're hearing us for the very first time, not to worry, I'll break down all you need to know about us. So PM Dojo is a diverse and inclusive global learning community to help people who are into products and tech grow throughout their career. So if you're looking to dive into products, please and please do join us because we have all that it takes, so much that it takes to making your transitioning excellent and much easier. And our mission is to make product careers more equal, accessible, diverse, and inclusive for all. We do also offer like fund-free events at PM Dojo, just like the one we're currently having now. At PM Dojo, we make sure we curate some community events like the one you're joining us, like I stated, and we do have limited spots. So if you want to be the first to get notified, please do well to subscribe on our website. We'll be dropping the link shortly. Just to confirm, let me check through if I am being heard. Okay, if you can hear me, just like indicate with a thumbs up or with yes, I can hear you. Oh, I can see people actually being able to hear me. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Okay, so if you're unable to hear, please just like kind of rejoin. Click on the link again so that you are able to follow up and not miss out as to what we do have. Awesome, good. So other persons are responding that they can hear me. Awesome. So yeah, like I stated, we do have free events and do well to subscribe in order not to miss out of any of our free events. And at PM Dojo, like we stated in our mission, in order for us to make products more equal, accessible, and diverse to all, we believe that product and design is a craft that can be learned and honed by doing and stepping into these roles versus just reading them. Yeah. And this is why we offer very unique learning tracks called the Product Accelerator Program, where we collaborate, take a real world problem, and go through problem discovery as well, solution discovery. And yes, you are going to be able to make live your product in 10 weeks. By the way, do reach out to us via our website. We'll be dropping also like the link to join in and be a part of it in the chat section. And we are also looking for mentors if you are fit for the role, please do well to apply. In order to bore you with so many talk, I think, yes, I'm super hyped. I'll be calling on Bosky, our founder at PM Dojo, who will be taking the lead right about now while she introduces our speaker and making us get set. Yeah, over to you, Bosky.
Thank you so much, Bernice. Welcome, Marty. I am so honored to share this stage with you. Have been a huge fan of you for a number of years. I'm sure you hear this every single time people talk to you. But as I was sharing with you just before the event, our 8-year-old has also taken a great liking towards your work and is often seen carrying your books in our household. So that is the extent of the fanfaredom that you have in my family. So thank you for that. But again, I think for the next 40 minutes, I'd love to dig deep a little bit, especially on, I think, your journey and a number of questions that we have received. Like what we've done is we've kind of taken a look at some of the common patterns and the most asked questions, and let's kind of go there. And I would love to hear your viewpoints. So Marty, before we kind of kick it off, I'd love to hear your journey, like your product origin story. Can you share that a little bit?
Sure, of course. Is everybody else seeing the big slide too? Like you could probably remove that if they are, so they can see us. But anyway, yeah. To be honest, my origin story is me right now. Maybe there we go. Good. Perfect. But anyway, my origin story is very common one, actually, very common. I started as an engineer. So I studied computer science, became a developer for 10 years. During that time as a developer, I learned to be a tech lead, and then I learned to be an engineering manager. And then I wanted to learn the other side, the product side. And luckily, for me, I was in a company where for 10 years, every single day I had at least one manager assigned to help me get better at my job. So I always had somebody coaching me when I wanted to learn product. My manager found somebody else, because my manager was an engineering VP. So he found somebody else to coach me on product. And it took me a few months of having to learn things I didn't know. Because I studied computer science, I didn't know anything about our customers, really. I didn't know anything about go-to-market. I had to learn that. And I especially didn't know anything about the financial side, the marketing, the sales, the financials, the legal, all that, the business side of things and the financial side. So I had to learn that, but it only took a few months because in every case, I had somebody to help me with that. And after that, for several years, I did both the product role and the tech lead role. And I loved doing that, but it was all work, no play, basically. You're working a lot. But anyway, then I moved into product leadership roles and did a couple startups. And yeah, I've been very lucky at being in the right place at the right time. Some good companies.
And the rest is history. Awesome. And Marty, just to kind of, again, I think introduce you again, I don't know. I don't believe that people don't know you, but you've done so much work. You've been in some amazing companies. You are the author of 2, really the first books that any product person reads. And even folks who have been in product for years, they get to read Empowered and Inspired. And you are also the partner at SVPG, Silicon Valley Product Group. Anything that you wanted to kind of share a little bit that I know I've probably missed?
I mean, I don't know of anything special to say. I get sort of what I focus on is difference between how the best companies work and how the rest work. And I do whatever I can think of to try to help convince more companies work like the best companies.
Yeah.
There are plenty of other people that help most companies. I like to work on helping the best companies and help more become like that.
Yeah.
So that's my interest area, and I've been doing that for my whole career.
Absolutely, Marty. So let's kind of dig deep. One question that it, lots of people asked when they registered for our event, and that is with regards to what's happening in our current climate. Not just recently, but it's been a regular, unfortunate theme this year, especially. And so the question is, in our current climate, what would be your advice to senior product managers who want to elevate their career in product leadership? How would they build their strategic skills in a downturn? I would love your thoughts on that.
Yeah, well, so I wrote an article recently called "It's Time to Build." And it's because of exactly what you described. This is a downturn. I point out in the article, first of all, there's a lot of sympathy because a lot of people have been laid off. A lot of people, even literally this week, have been laid off. So for those people, it's different. Those are people that want to find a job or need to find a job. And I have shared some suggestions there. By luck, there is the best book that's ever come out on this called Never Search Alone by Phil Terry. And if you're one of those people laid off, that's the first thing you should do is buy that book. And he's setting up a whole community online, all for free, all to help other product people find a good spot. So, I mean, there is that. But let's say you're lucky you have not been laid off and now you're in a company, but maybe your company is smaller now. And maybe even if it's not smaller, it's very likely that the company is going to have to get serious about their product efforts. They've been skating along, so many companies, just with so much money and not being forced to get serious about their product work. And now they are. So it's not a coincidence, but historically, and one of the few advantages of being as old as I am is I have seen a lot of these up and down, just a lot of them. And it can't be a coincidence, but during the downturns is when we usually see the best innovation. So it is actually a very good time to do product because companies are serious about it. And a lot of the sort of fluff and silly things that companies do, they can't afford to do. So now they had to focus on the product, focus on the customers. Mm-hmm. So that's why I wrote that article, It's Time to Build. And I would encourage, people to read it. I also wrote another article that's been out there a while called Where to Work. If you are looking for a place where you could really practice the craft of product, I talk about how it's not that hard to actually get a good sense of where the company really is and if it's a fit for the way you want to work. A lot of people, it's just like anything. They believe the marketing. They believe what they're told and they don't. And it's not until they've already joined that they find, oh my gosh, this company, what a messed up company, Yes. And it's like, would have been so easy to tell that during the interview process. Mm-hmm. But, I also tell people that no company is perfect. So make sure you don't have unrealistic expectations.
Absolutely.
But, there's a lot of good resources today.
Thank you for sharing that. And what I'll do is I've read both of those articles, Marty. I'll share that for everyone who's joined us. And for those who haven't been able to join us today, I will make sure that I link those two articles. And Never Search Alone, an amazing book. I actually started reading it and it's really good, really, really good. So I highly recommend that. You brought about a point just now about it might be too late and you kind of understand the mess you've joined only after joining. So I think that brings an interesting question. How do you assess some of these red flags as a candidate during interview? Because both sides are painting a rosy picture, right? But what are some of the things that, you can look out for, watch out for, and really be intentional even about asking during interviews?
Sure. Well, first of all, you need to educate yourself about two things before you do that interview. You need to educate yourself about the different models of product that are out there. I realize I'm name dropping a lot of articles here, but that's what I spend a lot of my time doing is writing. There's an article called Product versus Feature Teams. Yes. And that's a pretty popular article, and it highlights the different kinds of environments that you might go into. And by the way, just by reading that, you'll probably get a very good sense of what to look for, the clues, because nobody puts a sign on our wall saying we are a feature team company. No, they just say we're a product company. We have product managers. We have designers. It's awesome. Come work here. But there's a very big difference between working in a feature team company and working in an empowered product team company. Now, some people want to work in a feature team company, so still good for you to know what it is. Because in truth, it's a lot harder to work in an empowered product team company. It's a harder job, but some people, that's what they want, and some people they don't. My real goal for people is I want everybody to be happy and contribute, right? So some people are looking for a lower stress job. Some people are looking for more responsibility, right? Some people are looking to work on a product that really has a chance of changing the world in a good way. Other people just want to get a paycheck, so people have all these different needs. So that article will tell you more about okay, what am I looking at? The other thing you really want to do homework on is the company you're going to work for. And I don't mean like reading the website. You certainly should do that. But I'm talking about going on LinkedIn and looking at the backgrounds of the founders, which is the most important thing to look at. I do that every day for anybody I'm considering advising, and for the people who you'd be working for and with. So look at the background of the head of product, the head of engineering, the head of design. If there's a hiring manager that's not one of those three, look at that person's background. What you're looking for is, where have they worked? If they just left Stripe, they're awesome, probably. Odds are they're pretty awesome. If they worked at Amazon, they're pretty awesome. Netflix, pretty awesome. If they're coming from bank of whatever country, they're probably never seen anything like this before. And so you have to, do as much homework as you can. And then when you go into that company, if you see, okay, this is a good environment and this looks like the kind of company I want to work for, then what you want to do, first of all, your first job is, of course, to convince the hiring manager that you're a good person to hire. Mm-hmm. But assuming you do that, now you want to tell that hiring manager, look, the real reason I really want to work here is because I want to work for you. And I want to learn from you. And so I want to know that if I come here and if you were to hire me and I was to come and I was to work really hard, would you be willing to invest in me to help me become amazing? Mm. That's what, and that's what it's, a lot of those good managers, that's what they're looking for. They want somebody who really wants to learn and do well.
It's such an important point that you bring up, Marty, but it's also extremely hard, because I think when a lot of us are trying to interview, the stakes are so high. We want to just close the deal, get the job, because a lot of people are actually searching for a new job when they are unemployed or they're in between. And so I think a lot of the times, even if those red flags or these things are there, we kind of just brush it under the rug and we're just trying to get the job, only then to realize after months or within a few weeks, actually, that, this was not the right place. And it's extremely, extremely hard to.
Yeah. Well, look, one thing that we haven't said, but is important, if you're thinking of switching companies, it is to your advantage to do that while you're still working. Yes. To look when you have much more luxury, first of all, of considering several companies and not feeling the pressure you were just describing, Bosky, but also and I tell people this because I know it's just a fact, even though it's not nice. But the truth is, most hiring managers, it's lower risk for them to hire somebody that's currently working. Now, today they know lots of good people have been laid off, but in general, they don't know, because when companies lay off, sometimes it's because they literally have no money. And sometimes it's because, we never really wanted, that person wasn't very good for us and, didn't really have the courage to correct that before. So you have to realize it's lower risk. So if you are still working and you are considering looking, get that new offer at the company you want before you leave. or before you
Yeah.
give your notice.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I 100% agree. And I think for me, some things that I found, and I don't know if this is true for everyone, is when I have been interviewing, when things are actually great and I'm not completely frustrated and on my lowest of the lowest, I've actually done much better in interviews than actually when I start interviewing when I've been so frustrated, because then my motivation is also so low, my confidence is low. So I think something that I've learned is, you always got to be interviewing. It's a really bad thing to say, or not a best thing to say, but you want to kind of know your worth, but you also want to interview at times when your motivation and your confidence is high, and not when everything is so bad in your current role that you are questioning everything about yourself, right?
That's right. And honestly, what you're kind of getting at is imposter syndrome, right? And sadly, women suffer from this more than men all the time. I mean, they think they think they shouldn't be interviewing for this job, and I'm constantly arguing with them. Are you crazy?
Yeah.
Believe me, the other people interviewing for this job are not as qualified as you.
Yeah.
But in their head, they're wondering, are they good and all that stuff. And this is difficult. I know that if you have somebody who really knows you and believes in you, it can help give you that confidence to do that. So I'm always encouraging, when I meet somebody good, I want them to be in a place that they can really shine. I hate to see somebody good wasted at a company that really can't take advantage of them. And so a lot of times you do have to push that person a little bit. If you care about them, you're going to push them a little bit and say, no, it's really is, you are qualified for this. You absolutely are.
Absolutely. And I think product and the tech industry, you'll never know everything. And so I think as long as we feel comfortable that, you know what, I'll figure it out. I don't have to have all the answers today. I'll figure it out. Right. I think it definitely took a lot of time, I think, for me to get to a place where I wasn't, I think, losing my calm every few minutes. I think early on in my career, I would often, most of the time, feel like I am the most generalist in the room. And it was really hard to, I think, feel confident in sharing my point of view and my perspective. And I think over time it came a lot easier. But absolutely, Marty. I know we're receiving a lot of questions about just career transition and this and that. I promise you, folks, I will stay later on after our event to answer all of those questions. I just want to take on some of the most important questions from Marty right now, because we don't get these kind of opportunities to talk with Marty a lot. One really good question. As the product manager role has evolved over the years, what do you think has been ignored that should be revisited as a fundamental knowledge to have?
Well, I mean, the product manager role, it's a very complex topic, because really it stems from what I said before. There's been sort of two different trajectories: product manager in a real product team at a strong product company, and a product manager at a feature team company. So the product manager at a feature team company, it's really much more of a project manager, and they're kind of the cat herder, a little bit of everything. They work crazy hours because they're trying to cover everybody else's area. It's just super difficult, messy. But then in a product team, it's a very different responsibility. You're actually a maker on a product team. You are, you have a very big and hard job. It's not a project manager job. So it's hard to talk about the role, because truthfully, they should have different titles. I was never, who knows who decides that, but they should have different titles, and they just don't. So we always have to kind of separate those. The biggest general problem I see in our industry is people thinking a product owner is a product manager. So this, people just gravitating to this product owner and a CSPO or a PSPO. That's the only training they've had. And they think they're trained as a product manager, and they aren't. So that never used to be a problem. Never used to be a problem. But because of it, we have more unskilled incompetent product managers than we've ever had before. So this is a big problem. It's a big problem.
So that brings a question that I have for you, and I think you've written about it too. What are your thoughts about this plethora of certifications that are available? Many of them, they call themselves industry recognized certificate, or this feeling like, hey, you know what, you do this certification and you can become a product manager. And this over codification of this craft, because it is less about all of these frameworks, and there's a big piece of EQ and the human skill element, right, as in a product manager role. Marty, what are your thoughts around that?
Well, I'm going to actually give you two answers to that, because I want to be fair. First of all, every one of them I have seen is completely and utterly useless. Okay, these are ridiculous, these certifications, just ridiculous. And I will tell you, I don't know any hiring manager at a good product company that doesn't think they're ridiculous. That said, we've got people connecting from all over the world here on this call. And if the companies that you want to work for are not very sophisticated, which is unfortunately very likely, you may want one of those certifications to help you get a job. So it really depends on who you're going to go work for. If you're going to go work for a good company, no, that will, even if you have a certification, I'd suggest not putting it on your LinkedIn profile. Yeah. But if you are looking for a job in some random place in the world that really doesn't know what they're doing, you may need to get the certification just to get past their HR people. Literally, they're like, oh, you don't have a CSPO certification. Sorry. They don't even know what that is, but they look for it, right, as the HR. So, that's a reality in some places.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. Let me see, what is the next question that we have? Bernice, if you can maybe put the next question, that would be awesome.
Do you mind, Bosky? I've seen a lot of questions go by, but one of them from Emily is really a great question that's right on
let's
this
pick
topic.
It up.
So Emily said, how do we get an unskilled product manager to become a skilled product manager? If you can't count on certifications, because the real way that most good people learn product is from a manager that knows what good is and cares enough about you to coach you. So that's really the right answer. That's the scalable answer. That's the one that you should try for. There are backup plans. There are places, I already said what I thought about certifications, but more generally, training programs. There are some very good training programs today. Probably for every very good training program, there's probably 10 that are terrible, but there are good ones. That's the good thing. You just have to do your homework, and what everything depends on is the instructor. If you do your homework on who that instructor is, make sure they have worked at a good company before. Make sure they've actually done the job. The big problem with product owners is that in almost every case, the people doing the training for product owner training have never actually done product. How ridiculous is that? But they're agile process coaches. That's what they are.
Absolutely.
And so they think they can teach this stuff. So you can, and Emily, that's what you want to do. First, if you want a career in product, the foundation of that is get somebody to coach you.
Absolutely. It's such a wonderful point, Marty. You mentioned, I think learning from people who have done it before, because then you also get to see the mistakes, because there are countless mistakes I think that people make. Building products is not easy. It is not about this checklist. And I often see when I talk to people, they're like, is there a checklist? What are the steps I'm going to do? And I'm like, every problem is different. The context is different. The business might be different. And most importantly, I think as humans. We are complex creatures and we act very differently, during different times of our lives. And I think that adds to that messiness of our job. And I think that's where that human skills EQ is so important, and having a good manager, or even manager's manager, like someone in the company from whom you can actually learn, who's done the job. And I think what we've seen over the last couple years, especially with the creators economy, is that everyone has become now a trainer, who's teaching product management. And majority of them, when I see, and I'm like, there is advice on hiring managers or what you want to do. And I'm like, hey, you've never kind of sat on the other side of a table as a hiring manager, and you're giving all of this advice. I hope no one's actually looking at it. But it's interesting times, and you're absolutely right. Do your homework is.
Yeah, part of it's the internet, the good and the bad. But
Absolutely.
I always laugh when I see somebody say, you don't need a course. You could just learn product on Twitter. And I'm laughing so bad. There is so much noise on Twitter.
Absolutely.
You really have to work hard to figure
Absolutely.
out anything useful there.
Absolutely. And there are no shortcuts. It is hard. It is hard. And I think I was telling someone this yesterday, if you're looking for a shortcut to become a product manager, most likely product management is not the right career for you, because the job of a product manager, there is no shortcut, and it's extremely, extremely hard. So probably there is another role for you. Let me take a look. There's one very interesting question that's come up here. I don't have access to good managers and mentors. There are lots of great books that can help. Where can you find people to learn from if you don't have access to managers, good managers?
Yeah. Well, often even if your manager isn't helpful on this, there are often other leaders at your company, and they are, like I mentioned, in fact, in my own journey, I had to ask my manager to find somebody who could coach me, because it was a different function I wanted to learn. And in many companies, you can get the benefits. That's one of the advantages of larger companies, actually. And another is networks like this. Actually, this is this is a way for people to build a little bit of a community, a guild, if you will, around product. And so you can often find like-minded people online, for sure, and on events like this. And yes, I think there's several really good books out there that product people can read. Once you've read sort of the core books, it's more about practice. Yes. So I like to read books, so I read a lot of them, but it's not like, you basically, you've got to practice the skill. You got to practice the craft. So.
Yeah. And I think that is the point. It is a craft. It's like, you can never just go to Twitter and learn how to make pottery. Right. You have to be able to sit on the wheel and make tons of mistakes. And eventually, over time, you're going to be able to craft a beautiful piece of pottery, right? I think that's how I put it in my head.
Exactly right.
Marty, there's a question about what advice would you have for someone who happens to be working at a company where product management is not valued? What do you do? Do you just leave? Or can you change it? Can you change that culture and belief? Or is there something you can do as a product manager to evangelize that value?
Well, before you give up on the company, because that would be what a lot of people will do. They don't care about this role. I'll go somewhere that does. But, there's some really good companies in the world that don't really care about product managers. Like Apple is a good example. Mm-hmm. Apple is not a great place for product managers in general. Now, don't get me wrong. They have among the best product managers in the world, but they are product leaders. Yes. So people who love to build product, Apple is an awesome place. Normally, you would either be a designer or you would be an engineer. Those are the two core. And but many of those designers and engineers are also great product people. And the way they work is their leaders are making the vast majority of the product decisions. But you have to, I mean, I would say Apple has the biggest collection of rock star product leaders in the world. I know more of them there than anywhere else. And so it's not that they don't have product, but they don't have product managers. They like that. And remember, their portfolio is a small number of multi-billion-dollar devices, that are just huge markets. So that's a pretty scalable answer for that approach. So would I encourage you to leave Apple because they don't know? I would encourage you to maybe move into one of the roles that really you can move up and learn at Apple, because a few years working at a place like Apple on an amazing product, and you can do anything.
So Marty, what are your thoughts around titles in product?
Around what?
Titles, role titles. So
titles,
right? Do you see the titles kind of getting blurry over time in the future, or are titles really important? Because a lot of companies, their product manager, they may have product manager roles. You end up actually becoming a glorified project manager in a lot of companies. And product management also has different flavors and things like that. Yeah, I'd love to kind of hear your perspective on just titles. Like, should people pursue and chase titles, or is it something else? How do you figure out?
Well, I mean, you just hit on that big difference between a feature team and a product team. A lot of people, they take a job as a product manager at a company, and then they tell me, oh, this is not what I had hoped for. It's just a project manager.
Yes.
That's all I am. I'm a project manager. And I'm like, well, that's because you joined a feature team company. That's the model that they have embraced. Now, a lot of those feature team companies want to transform into a product team company. And if you're in one of those, then you could offer to help on that. But otherwise, all right, you have to decide, is that the job you want or the other? So whatever they call it, product owner, product manager, business analyst, still used in some old companies, whatever they call it, what matters is what the job really is. So I would look beyond the title, no matter what. People use that term product manager for all kinds of things, and you want to look beyond that. Make sure you know what they're talking about.
Absolutely. We have 4 more minutes, and so I'd love to kind of ask this one question. You've obviously seen the role of product kind of change over the course of so many years. What do you believe the future lies for how this role is going to evolve?
Well, we have to talk about the 2 different tracks there. And I also have to separate what I hope happens from what I think will probably happen, right? Because, just because I wish something doesn't make it's going to happen, right?
Yeah.
So in the real product company world, the product role as we know it today has been around a long time. It's been a valued role. It's continuing to be a valued role. The role itself hasn't really changed. You're still responsible for the same things, but the techniques have changed dramatically. Yeah. So think of it this way, like surgeons have been around for hundreds of years, but the techniques they use has changed dramatically. Same with product management. You still have the same job. I'm not saying you're the surgeon or anything, but you still are responsible for the value and the viability of the offering that you're coming up with. So the job is still there, but the techniques have got so much better. And it seems clear to me that that's not slowing down. The techniques will continue to evolve, will continue to get better. So on that front, great. Much harder to talk about what's going to happen. Like if you look at the rest of the world, if you look at the really crappy companies out there, they're using processes like SAFe, where there really isn't even a product role. It's just so weak. And unfortunately, it's very easy to see why companies like a CIO would find that appealing. It's optimized for predictability, not optimized for innovation. So, those companies on one side of me, since my world is Silicon Valley startups, those companies are awesome because those are the ones we're going to disrupt. Those are the ones that are in trouble. One after the other, they're all getting knocked down. On the other hand, I have friends at some of those companies and I feel sorry for them. And they, a lot of them know it's terrible, but they, you can leave or you can try to convince your leaders to get serious about product. I don't know what's really going to happen there. I hope that over the next 10 years or so, things like that will go away one way or another. Either the market forces or the leaders of those companies will get religion and realize, but one way or another, I hope those go away and more companies can actually use the talents of their people.
It's such a helpful point. I think it kind of reminds me of a time many years ago where I had questioned following a process at a company just for the sake of following. Like I was basically asked to repeat the same thing in 15 different documents because that was the process. And I questioned that. And someone told me, Bosky, it is better to be consistent than be right. And this overindulgence of just following a process and not questioning, because innovation can happen everywhere. You can even improve your process, and that can really make your teams very, very productive and much more effective in actually bringing value and also solving for business viability. I mean, I think that was like the light bulb moment in my head, and I'm like, what am I doing here?
That's right. Well, it's always dangerous to talk about Elon Musk right now because he's kind of going a little crazy. But he's right when he says the danger in big companies is that process becomes a substitute for thinking. And that's what your manager was a living form of that, or the person that told you that. That's just, we're robots. We just do this. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that is an area that sometimes I think, Marty, I feel, with AI and all of these things that are coming so much into it, like if we become process followers in our role, the bots are going to be able to do our job and fill in the blanks and all of these different templates that exist in the world of product. And we are not going to exist. And I think that's where that craftsman thinking is so important. If we want to really bring in value to our jobs. Yes. Yeah, be very careful with process people. They are incredibly dangerous.
Absolutely. There is a fun question. I'm going to end with that. I don't know if it's a question to be asked here or not, but is Elon Musk a product manager?
He's proven himself one of the greatest, if not the greatest ever product leader in the world. What he's done with SpaceX and Tesla is off the charts, and he deserves all the incredible credit for that. Unfortunately, with Twitter, it's not really a product issue he's dealing with. It's a policy issue he's dealing with. And this seems to be very new territory for him. And so far, he's not looking very good. He is a smart person, so he will probably correct. But will he correct in time? I don't know. And so far, he's just not making. He's showing his character, not his product skills.
Absolutely.
And so that's a problem.
And I think, there is business decisions that need to be made and then product decisions like I think what you're saying. And I think, yes, of course, what's happening is not right and it's impacting a lot of people, but absolutely. Marty, would you have maybe a minute to answer one last question that I'm just seeing on the chat?
Sure, go for
it. Thank you so much. This question is, what are your thoughts on VC-funded startups versus bootstrap startups? Do you always have to shoot for the moon and rush to innovation, or can you be more grounded and still find success?
Well, I think those are two parts. You do need to rush. When we say rush to innovation, for any startup, either kind, it's all about getting the product market fit before the money runs
Yeah.
I will tell you, having worked at both, bootstrapped, if you can pull off a bootstrap startup, you're in much better shape, just all around. However, in fact, the irony is if you bootstrap your startup and you get to product market fit, the VCs will die to invest in you. That's what they want. And the best time to take a VC investment is when you do not need it. eBay took VC money but didn't need any of the money.
Yeah.
So that, bootstrap's better. VC funded is fine too. You just need to make sure you can get to product market fit. Now, the person asking the question was sort of implying, like, is there anything wrong with a lifestyle business? No, there's nothing wrong with that. That's not a startup. That's not. But if you want to start your own little firm that just, gives you a nice quality of life, that's awesome. But that's not a startup.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Marty. I absolutely learned so many things, and I really appreciate and I'm so grateful for your time today. I will share all of those articles. They're all actually bookmarked. So I will be sharing all of those articles and the link to the book as well as a follow-up email to everyone who registered today. If some of you are joining us on directly on YouTube, feel free to reach out to me and I will send out all of those links to you. Really appreciate this time, Marty. So grateful. Anything you wanted to say before we end our event today?
No, I hope this was useful. And I realized there were lots of questions that went by. We maybe answered 1% of them. So, but, hopefully you can find some good resources. And I wish you all the best of luck.
Thank you so much. And again, if there are some questions out here, I know we haven't picked up. I might actually just reach out to you and see if there are some resources, I think on your end that you could just point. That would be awesome. And I'll package everything up and send it to everyone. I'll still hang around here. I know there were lots of questions that I was getting pinged about, just kind of, I think, transitioning and this and that. I'm happy to answer that. And yeah, Marty, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. And thank you so much. I know you're so busy, but thank you so much for taking the time to be with us.
Thank you. Good luck, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Happy holidays.
You too.
Thank you, everyone.